This is Ari Koretsky, and welcome to Jews You Should Know, introducing the broader community to interesting and inspiring Jewish men and women making a difference in our world. Some are already famous, some not yet so, but each is a Jew you should know. And we are back with our Israel podcast tour, and in particular our mini-series featuring bridge builders in the land of Israel, people who are able to traverse that unfortunate chasm that seems to exist, in particular between the religious and what's called secular populations in the land of Israel. This week featuring founder of Ayelet Hashchar, Rabbi Shlomo Ra'anan. Ayelet Hashchar is an incredible organization that has to date placed 167 rabbinic families on kibbutzim, moshavim, and small communities, towns, all throughout Israel, most or if not all of which lacked any significant Jewish religious presence until their arrival. And these families move in not to take over in any sense, but to become really a part of the community, to involve themselves and endear themselves and really ingratiate themselves into communal life, and of course to offer Jewish learning and experiential opportunities to their neighbors. We met together in Modi'in, a beautiful, blossoming city in the heart of the center of Israel. And you'll hear quite a bit of noise because there was a lot of construction going on around us. The construction was the building of a new synagogue through Ayelet Hashchar, and our interview was actually delayed a half an hour or so that we could watch the pouring of concrete. And even when we found a somewhat secluded little alcove where we could meet, we still had the beautiful background noise of the building of the Jewish people, of the construction that was going on around us. After we finished, Rabbi Ra'anan insisted that I meet a dynamo woman who is the director of programming and head of the women's division and director of their Chavruta program, where 10,000 people a week study Torah together on the phone. And so I drove out to Bnai Brak, a very religious enclave in the Tel Aviv suburbs, to meet with Riki Siton, an incredible woman, and we had a wonderful interview. And so we will have a longer, thorough, exhaustive interview with Shlomo Ra'anan, followed by a shorter but very emotional and impactful conversation with his deputy powerhouse, Riki Siton. And I now bring you our first interview, Shlomo Ra'anan. We are here with Shlomo Ra'anan, director of Ayelet Hashchar, and we are here in the beautiful and historic city of Modi'in. And maybe you'll tell us a little bit about the city, but if you hear a little background noise, it's the construction workers laying cement next door for a beautiful new synagogue that is being constructed here under the Ayelet Hashchar auspices. And so much to learn about this organization and this person. Welcome, Reb Shlomo.
Shalom.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Shlomo, tell us a little bit about where you're from. You have a wonderful English, but I know your native tongue is Hebrew. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up.
I born in Yerushalayim, Shari Tzedek. Grew up in Haifa. High school in Midrashiyat Noam Pardes Chana. I joined to the Air Force School for half a day.
Half a day?
A day. And until somebody come to my attention and says, listen, nice boy, with your background, your kippah will stay on your head at the most for 2 weeks. So you should go to yeshiva.
Interesting. So you had grown up you said you were born in Yerushalayim, but you grew up really in Haifa. Was your family from Yerushalayim really, or have your parents been in Israel a long time?
Yerushalayim and Haifa. My mother is from Yerushalayim. My father grew up in Haifa, and they decided after the marriage to move to Haifa.
Interesting. Why?
Jobs, opportunity.
What did they do?
My father is a social worker. My mother is a special ed
Interesting. So
teacher.
they like to help people.
Like to help people, and they were involved with chinuch for many, many years.
And what was the religious education like growing up?
Like, in Israel, you describe it Dati Leumi, shtickle modern Orthodox, not really, but on the edge.
Can you explain a little bit what that means in an Israeli context to an average American who doesn't know much about it?
That yeshiva education before army is opportunity, it's option, but it's not necessary. It's not like iron rule. You have the opportunity to pass your experience, yeshiva, army, מכינה קדם צבאית. Everything is open and everything is acceptable. In the Haredi world, you have to build yourself according to the clear schedule. And you have to be in yeshiva until you're married, and you have to marry a specific girl, and you have to learn in a kollel at least few years. In the modern world, you have all the options. I was in a big sofek, where should I go? To yeshiva says there that I didn't like so much, direct to right away to the army, or to learn in yeshiva. My father told me that I need the experience of a year or two in yeshiva before I start traveling in the new life, in the new adventure. By himself, he learned in Ponevezh. He was very close with HaShachar. He also, when he was 21, he decided to go to the army. My mother learned in Gateshead.
Interesting. So very religious.
In Yaakov and in Gateshead. And,
very religious place in England. Yes.
Yeah, and Rabbi Miller and Dr. Cohen were the most common rabbonim on our Shabbos table. And during the years, they moved to Haifa, and they were a little bit more open. But they carry on the very Torah and European kind of tradition.
Were they themselves immigrants?
Yes, they're both Holocaust survivors.
They're both survivors. Wow, yeah. Amazing. Were they in the camps, or what was their story? In a quick version.
My father was saved by the custom train.
Wow, out of Hungary.
From Hungary, and he born in Budapest and grew up in Budapest. And they were in the camp for 6 months in Bergen-Belsen, but it was not the most difficult section of the camp, but they were 6 months. My mother was hidden by a goyim for a year and moved from family to family. My grandparents end up in the jump from the train to Auschwitz, and they got cut back.
They jumped from the train?
Yes, they jumped to the train.
And they must have been already older people a little bit.
No, they were about 30.
Okay.
About 30, and they jumped from the train, they got injured, and they came back to their original city. This is my mother's parents, from Pressburg. Bratislava, what's it called?
Chassam Sofer, yeah.
Yeah, we're very close. My grandfather was the right hand of Reb David Shmuel Ungar, the Nitro Rav.
Nitro Rav, yeah.
And
they got
cut, right? And they got cut, and my grandmother had to go through Ravensbrück, and she ended up in Bergen-Belsen, 34 kilogram. Few hours before, going to different world. She was complete, what you called Muslim, like,
right, a skeleton.
Yeah, out of the, almost in coma.
Wow.
And my grandfather was redeemed, was released, liberated from Theresienstadt.
And they found each other back?
Miraculously, they found each other back, and all the children that they hidden by the goyim. They came in 48 to Eretz Yisrael. After he made some business, my grandfather hosted a Knessia Gdola right after the war in Marienbad. He was involved with the Knesset Gdolah before the
Knesset
war.
Gdolah was, can you explain what that is? All the rabbis gathering together?
Yeah, to discuss the events that they had to go through. My mother was the only woman that ever spoke in the Knesset Gdolah as a little girl. And my grandfather was very proud. And she had a speech on Shabbos on Marienbad. Not a long speech, but a very, very moving speech.
Did she remember her speech later on?
Yes, she remembered.
What did she speak about?
You know, since they grew up by the Goyim, they were very familiar with Catholic praise and davening,
right.
and they're very, very attached to the Catholic life. And whenever my mother saw the nuns, they ran to kiss them, and they knew all the praise.
Sure, they were raised in that home, right?
The sister refused to come back home, and my mother also, as a 5-years-old girl, she refused to come home, and they couldn't sleep unless you have a cross next to them. And my grandfather, the parents couldn't take them right away. And when they met, my grandfather says, you know, Jesus is good, but it's not ours. My mother shared those ideas when we opening shul in a very special kibbutz, Sde Boker, Ben Gurion kibbutz.
Sure, Sde Boker, betach.
You know,
beautiful, I love it there, beautiful.
Yeah, so we built a shul there. So in the celebration of the shul, she shared that comment. She says to them, you know, we have everything from the world, but not necessarily, it's good, but it's not necessarily ours. So we have to look, you know, to search for our own treasure.
Sounds like an amazing woman.
She is, yeah, she's very sharp. And then the maid, after the war, the maid kept telling them, you know, there was a spring, I don't remember, or a summer, and it was raining the whole week. And she told, and on Shabbos it was raining even more. And she told my mother, you see, God giving the rain on Shabbos because He doesn't like the Jews. So the Jews has to stay home and not going out to the prayer. And
wow.
On Sunday, it was raining again, very powerful. And my mother said to her, you see, God doesn't like the Arab Christian. He avoids them going to the church. She says the difference between the Christians and Jews, that the rain here in Europe is to make a trouble to the people. But in Eretz Yisrael, the rain that we have for the Jews is to grow up oranges.
It's a blessing, yeah.
It's a blessing. It's for the orchards. And she was a 5 years old. And
wow.
On the Knesset Gdolah, the gathering right after the war, when Rabbi Shammai Levin and other
all the
leaders,
great rabbis, yeah,
that survived, came. So he asked her to stand in front of everybody and share the story. You know, the point that how much Hashem is still loving the Jews, and how you should define, you know, the brocha and the difficulties.
Incredible.
My other grandfather, he lived in Budapest, and in 1944, when he heard that Rebbe Belzer looking for a place to hide in Budapest, he offered his own apartment. He's the only one that was ready to move from Pest to Buda with 8 children, and gave the apartment to the Rebbe Belzer, even though that he never heard anything about Hasidic.
He wasn't Hasidic himself.
He was not. He was Overlander. He was Ashkenaz. He never heard about the Minogi Hasidim. He knew that it's a Hasidim.
He just knew there was a great rabbi, and he wanted to have him.
He heard that there's a great rabbi. I asked him once, "What's the point? What you heard about him?" He said, somebody came from Belz and shared that the Rebbe was, when he was very, very sick and he had a fever on 40 degrees Celsius, like very high, basically cannot hold himself, almost fainted. The two Gabbaim hold him in two hands and he continued to learning.
Wow.
So he says, if there's a Jew like that still in Europe, I'm ready to
I want to
give.
help him, yeah.
And when they move in for 6 months or so, he had a long discussion with Abraham Belzer about Hasidic Sheminogim. He was a Talmid Chochem, my grandfather was Ashkenaz. He never heard about Kvittel.
So he learned about all these things from having him in his apartment.
Yeah, so he come every day to see what's going on, and he took opportunity to talk with him. And when Rabbi Belzer had to run away from Budapest because the police started to
Right, they're trying to find him, yeah.
Yeah, where is he? So he took all the family and put them online on the wall, 2 parents and 8 children. And he promised them that they will save from
He gave him a blessing for safety.
A blessing, a promise.
Wow.
More than a blessing, a promise, and I'll tell you why I meant that. And all of a sudden, one of the few Haredish family, I don't know if they on that train was a big family, like with 8 children. I think they are the only one. They called to join the journey, to jump on the train together with the Satmarov. The Satmarov had to pay a lot of money.
Right.
My father was quite. He was a melamed was a boichen in the community.
Didn't have money.
Didn't have money with 8 children, and they were zoche to be on the train. The Satmarov, when the train start to move east instead to west. So he says to people, he came from car to car, he says people hidden start to say vidui.
Because they thought they were going to be killed.
In Auschwitz. We are on the way to Auschwitz now.
Thought it was a trick.
Yeah. He didn't trust the Zionim that they will pay what
the Zionists were the ones who had arranged it. And
to what they will pay was the money, was a trust.
Really, this was through like the Bergson group, right? That train.
So, and my grandfather, because of his COVID, wait until he left the car and he came in and says, Eden, tit odedu, be happy.
Be happy.
Yeah.
He was disputing the Satmar Rebbe's.
Yeah, but with the COVID, he says, I have a promise, not a blessing. I have a promise from the Belzerov that I will end up in Swiss and Eretz Yisrael. So if I will,
we're all together.
We're all together. We're in the same boat.
Same train.
Same train. And they end up being together in Bergen-Belsen, waiting for the money and
right.
And my father had the opportunity to be Meshamesh of the Satmarov in Bergen-Belsen. As a little child, he was able to sneak out from the small room and bring water because Rabbi Yoelish Satmarov was very, very busy with the Netilas Yadayim.
I was always washing his hands.
Constant.
Even in the camp.
So the older people couldn't leave free the camp to the yard. But as a little child, the Nazis let him. So he was
able to sneak water.
He would sneak water, every day, many, many times. We have story about those relationships.
Did they give you special honor when you go visit Satmar because of this?
Belz certainly.
Belz, yeah.
Yeah, Satmar I was not privileged to.
What was the family name? I assume it was not Ra'anan back then.
Yeah, back then it was Reiner. Yosef, my grandfather was called Alav Hashem Yosef Yudah Reiner. And after the war, I asked him, okay, Saba, tell me, okay, so you have a miracle from the Belzerov, but what's the nature story of that?
Right.
So he shared with me that even though that he was part of the Haredish community, but he has unconditioning love to Eretz Yisrael. And when he was 8 years old, every penny that he saved, he bought a Keren HaKayemet stamp.
JNF,
JNF, yeah, stamp to be ordered to plant trees.
Plant trees in Israel.
And
so he had like an inherent love of Israel.
Inherent love, and the Zionists knew about that the that a frum child from the Haredi that now is kind of one of the teachers, and I'm not saying leaders, but very involved in the community.
Right.
He is very connected to Eretz Yisrael. So when they have to pick up the Haredi family, because they want show that
They want to show the world that it's equal opportunity and they're saving everyone.
It's not really equal.
So they were like the token family.
Yeah, so they were, So
and they selected him because of the proven Zionist dedication.
And when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he ended up in Haifa because he said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the first piece of land that I will step in Israel, that's where I will stay.
And
so he didn't want to move. And the boat came to Haifa, so he didn't want to move.
Unbelievable. So he went to Jerusalem for a short time, but came back.
No, this is my grandfather.
Your father.
My grandfather ended up most of his life in Haifa. And he was a teacher, he was a principal of school. Eventually, you have to know he's a guy. He was a rabbi that he never stepped 4 hours without halacha. He was
very,
from 4 o'clock in the morning to
always learning and always
just learning, and he was interested. He was very close with Rav Wosner, Shmuel Wosner.
Yeah.
With a Hungarian rabbi, and all his life he was Kedusha and Tara and Limud Torah in Eretz Yisrael.
Wow.
He's Ashkenaz, but he went to the mikveh every morning.
Well, he had the influence from the Belzer Rebbe, Hasidic influence.
I never asked him if it's after or before, but maybe in Budapest also they some sofer, I don't know. But he was. I remember that I asked him what time he go to the mikveh. So when he told me the time, I says, but it's not on my watch. That's hour.
They left that off my watch. I'm not up then. That's a good one.
For one of these, a kind of Zionist, but Oberlander is a different type of word. I remember that when I was 16 or 17, one day I came and I slept in his house.
Your grandfather's house?
My grandfather's house. I woke in the morning and I realized I didn't took my tefillin with me I was traveling or visiting. And I woke up at 7 o'clock. He's after the davening and 2 shiurim that he gave.
He's already up for 3 hours.
More. And I asked the tefillin. So he went to his room, came back after 2 hours, and I see that he's red, nervous, with tears. I says, Saba, what for? He said, this is the first time in the history of those tefillin that they will put on a hair. You call it blorit, like a shtickle hair.
Like a bags.
The bag. It's the first time that...
Maybe they were never put on a young child before, or a young
No, they never
person?
They never put on a hair. I mean, he kept the tradition for
because he had his hair cut short.
Right.
So he was upset that it was going to be.
He was upset, he was happy, both of them, that, his child is put in Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
Baruch Hashem, he was zoche that all of his children show Shabbos and put tefillin every day. Yeah. He has 8 children, and he had another child that born, another girl that born in Eretz Yisrael after the war. And my grandmother, Aliyah Shalom, was very sick. She had a heart problems, and even those, he was willing to give up his apartment, his safety. Pest was known like the safe place for the Jews.
Okay.
Everybody from the village, everybody from Ungi tried to come to Pest, and he was willing to move to Buda and having his children going on a train every day. It was not so sympathy. It's not so.
Right.
It's not a pleasure.
Sure, it's an incredible story. So this is the background you grew up in.
My grandfather ended up open here in Eretz Yisrael, hotel in Yerushalayim, in Rehov En Gedi in Talpiot. He was a neighbor of Shai Agnon and Bibi Netanyahu.
Really?
Professor Netanyahu.
Professor, yeah.
And Professor Klausner, that got the Nobel Prize about his famous book about our brother Jesus.
Right.
And this hotel basically serves all Gdolei Israel and just Gdolei Israel, basically.
It's just
mostly.
for Torah scholars, basically, the
Torah
hotel?
scholars, and it was a business and was a big chesed institution. Every name that you mentioned was part of that.
It was like a destination
mission
for all
Everybody.
the great Torah scholars of Israel.
It's called Pension Karmi, the Finkel, the Rosh Yeshiva of Mir, and Rav Jungreis and Rav Epstein and the Chibinerov, and Pratzkel Avramsky, and Rav Wozner and Rav Landau. Everybody took opportunity to be in that hotel. They served the people, but they also gave them opportunity to really rest in the right atmosphere, in the right respect. So basically they were surrounded. So he had many years, he has 2 hotels, one in Yerushalayim during the summer and one in Tiberia during the winter.
Uh-huh.
So he gave option to whoever need to take place in those hotels.
Wow.
And he was very close with Pratzkel Avramsky. Basically was a ben bais by him. After the close hotel, it was stay by him on Pesach and every holiday, and the relation was very, 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 very close. I remember when I started to learn in Brisk in Reb David Soloveitchik, I mentioned that my mother shared that the servant came from the Brisker Rov and he was sick to arrange everything, to arrange the bed. So he smiled, he says it was not a servant, it was me.
I was the servant, the suffering servant.
Yeah. So I says in Hebrew, mesharet, or
right, the help.
We will say in more Kovedik, the gabbai.
Right.
But he says it was me. Basically, he was trust, completely trust. But everybody.
Right.
Even Rav Landau. Rabbi Yaakov Landau from Bnei Brak, Rav Wozner, as I mentioned. Biale Rebbe, and
all these great rabbis.
All these great rabbis and Admorim. And,
right.
So all these stories coming because I always remember that my grandfather was, since he was a child, he was about planting trees in Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
And 40 years after this story, I said to myself, that's a way that Eretz Yisrael is built. My grandfather planted trees and I try to plant synagogue and shuls in places that need it.
It's Chaim, the tree of life.
Yeah. And I feel like my grandfather built a frame and we try to make it meaningful.
Right. So I'm curious, why did you go, when you were growing up, you said you started in the Air Force. So what made you kind of think you wanted to go to the Air Force? And then what changed so quickly? Like, why did you change your mind after such a short time?
Before I came to the first day, my father kept telling me that...
right, he was saying to go study.
Yeah, but you have to know that in '79, to join to accept to the Air Force School was the biggest pride.
Very prestigious.
Yeah, I don't remember happy day beside my marriage day. And that I was so happy, so
you wanted to be a fighter pilot?
To be so proud about myself. It's not a fighter pilot. The status is like above everything that you can dream.
Right.
And I came, and when after they introduced us the base, the programs, we gathered to eat lunch, and at the end of lunch I was sneaking to daven mincha.
Uh-huh.
And for many were maybe hundreds of people, we have one or two people that came to daven mincha. At the shul in Chatzerim stood a fresh Baal Tshuva navigator. He just finished the school. He was a Baal Tshuva. His name was Duki Ben Arzi. And before we start mincha, or after we start mincha, he came to me and says, friend, Chaver, this is the best place in the world, but only after 1 or 2 years in yeshiva.
Huh.
If you don't go to yeshiva, the kippah will not keep the kippah on you.
Right.
And Duki Ben Arzi ended up rabbi of the Air Force after years. And I told him that, I don't see him very often, but from time to time he says, you have so many zchuyot, because your advice was shocking me.
And it changed the course of your life.
Yeah.
So you went off to study right away? You just left? Did you get in a lot of trouble?
I already start learning Yeshivat HaNegev Rebbe Socher Meir.
Okay.
And after a few months, I was called to the school. And when I left the yeshiva, and my friend knew that I go to the school, Rebbe Socher Meir was very, very nervous.
Right.
And he waited for me. And the minute that I left the base, so he called me back, and explained me how important it is to be in yeshiva. It was not so clear to me then.
Right.
But after 1 year or more, or the second year, I realized that that's my place.
So you decided not to go back to the Air Force?
Exactly.
At that point.
Exactly.
So then did you study for a long time after? I assume you got married sometime after that? And
yeah, 5 years after that. I finished 4 years in Yeshivat HaNegev and 1 year in Brisk by Reb David Soloveitchik, and I got married. My wife from Bnai Brak, originally from Chicago, but they end up
American.
Yeah. So they end up in Bnai Brak, and she got a job, and a job for a fresh avrech, Ra'anan avrech. Yeah, Ra'anan is fresh. It's like a pikuach nefesh. So I moved to Bnei Brak, and I learned by Michael Feinstein, Zichrono Livrocha.
Sure.
The Briskerov son-in-law.
Yeah, I was in his apartment before. No air conditioning, top floor, very hot.
Kahneman 101.
Very hot. I just remember he wasn't at all disturbed by the lack of air conditioning. I was there 3 minutes, and I was schwitzing. I couldn't take it, and he's there like this is how his whole life is. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he was a model.
And Bnei Brak is so hot and humid.
Even those days.
This is 20 years ago maybe.
And so I learned by him 4 very special years.
Yeah.
Beside what his koilel, gave me, but his personal
yeah. Personal connection.
Personal connection,
Wow.
and it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find something close in his davening, in his avas Yisrael, of course, in his learning. And by him you saw that lulei toras chashashua azavati bo'ini. He suffers so much. Yeah. He suffers so much that the only relief that he has, the only simcha that took over completely was limud Torah.
So when he was learning, he was
always learning. I never saw him out of learning.
But that gave him a reprieve from his suffering. But he had a lot of physical ailments.
Physical and family issues, and but the Torah held him, and he was like a young boy.
Wow.
And you see the simcha of the limud day by day, no matter what he gone through.
Incredible. So then after you were studying, you decided to go into education. What did you do afterwards? Because I know you didn't start this organization until a while ago, but not so long ago. So what did you in between?
After I finished learning by Remichel for 4 years, I decided I want to learn Dayanus, so I went to a koilel in Bnei Brak.
Be a judge, a rabbinical judge.
And I was there for 2 years, also a very special place. One day we got a phone call that the community in Los Angeles looking for a special teacher to help build a school, Ivrit Be'Ivrit.
Which school?
It's called Gur Aryeh.
Okay.
In Los Angeles. In that time, I had difficulty to pay our mortgage. We just buy a new apartment.
Right.
And I say to myself, that's great.
LA, here we go.
LA, here we go.
From Bnei Brak to Hollywood. It's quite a long.
I had a few relatives.
In LA?
In LA. First, my grand uncle was a shtick learner and he was a chazan in Beit Jacob, a very, 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 very special person. He was my great uncle, and my other great uncle was the founder of the community Beit Jacob congregation in San Diego.
Okay.
Bo Stern.
Okay, wow. So that's, is that where Rabbi Bogopolsky is currently?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So we had some connection. I called Avrech, that part of the community. I didn't know then. I never heard about him, but I heard that he's Avrech Shlomo Gottesman.
Oh, okay.
You know, Zev Olson Zal, son-in-law.
Right.
And I asked him, you know, is it Torah in Los Angeles? He says, yeah, absolutely, come. So I came and we end up 5 years in Los Angeles.
Huh.
I taught in some of the school, Or Eliyahu in Yavne. My wife taught mostly in Yavne. And after 5 years, we decided, actually my wife decided it's time to come back, you know.
She had enough.
She had enough, away from the parents, and she was very, very worried about the children,
Right.
how they will grow. She insisted to live outside of the Jewish community, zero influence.
Yeah.
She says, if you live in a Jewish community, we will never leave. You will be American, my children will be American. And her father, you know, made a big move to Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
He gave up a lot of his career, and Mishpacha magazine made a beautiful article about him like 3 weeks ago.
Who is that?
His name is Lenny Whisper. He was a Korean...
that's your father-in-law. Okay,
yeah.
I read that article, sure.
Yeah. So he got captive and injured
Right.
on Korean
War.
And then he made the whole decisions, you know, the whole move back to Yiddishkeit.
Right.
And in 1965 they moved to Israel.
Difficult time to move to Israel, yeah.
Recession and
before even the 6 Day War.
Yeah, 2 years before.
So you came back, and what did you do? Did you have a job when you came back?
I thought, you know, after 5 years in Los Angeles, I might go back to learn to a kollel, to feed myself back.
Right.
Then I have no time to think. You know, we had 4 children, and I had to go to the army. They wait for me.
They're waiting for you.
Waiting for me. Actually, you know, I got invitation back and back and back for many years to come to
the Air Force.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 years.
I kept trying.
And when I came back in 35, says, no, now it's time to... So I went to the army.
As a rabbi?
In the beginning, as a regular soldier with the training, short training.
Right.
And I was a helper of the helper of the helper of the chef of one of the base.
assistant cook.
Yeah, the assistant. I was the last one to leave the kitchen. I have to peel all the onions.
Oh boy.
To make it ready for tomorrow. And after maybe a short time, I moved to be like a rabbi.
Right, of a base.
Of, you know, the main base, and I gave shiurim and lectures all over the center base of Israel. Every day, 1 or 2 lectures.
And did you have a passion already at that time for reaching out across the aisle to other kinds of, you know, Jews, the Jews from different backgrounds? Because I think the reputation of, you know, certainly the very religious community in Israel is that it can be somewhat insular, and that people aren't necessarily looking to reach out beyond the community, and even if they are, maybe don't have the skills or the vocabulary to do that. So was this something that you already were passionate about, or did you just kind of fall into it?
That's a very interesting. In Los Angeles, I met many Israelis, Americans as well, and I started learning with them. And during this time, I started to understand that for many Israelis, it's just a matter of opportunities.
Yeah.
Just a matter of opportunities. In the army, I realized that more and more. I remember that when I heard the radio programs, the radio talks, it appeared to me very strange, even painful. There was no relationship, there was no hidabrut, no conversation. And I thought to myself, if that is real, that is necessary, and where I am in that place. I thought, during my army service, what I actually will do when I will finish as a service, and I didn't know. But I remember going to Bnai Brak several times a week, passing a city next to our home. We live in Rehovot. When we came back from Los Angeles, we moved to Rehovot. We like the city. It's a very interesting city. One end, very intellectual, very friendly, no extreme. Everybody lived together. Hasidim, Lita'im, more or less. But in general, it's a peaceful place. And we pass a city called Nes Ziona. I could smell that it's kind of neglected city in terms of Torah centers.
I'm going there next week to interview a retired general, Almog, from the Alei.
Yeah.
So Nes Ziona. So you felt that there was a need there for some Jewish influence and some education there.
A city in Eretz Yisrael with no Torah is missing something.
Sure.
I was not necessarily thought, to make Balei Tshuva and to...
Just to give them exposure and to give them an opportunity to learn.
Opportunity, I realized that...
So what did you do?
So in a very short time, I moved 15 family to live in Nes Ziona. We opened a koilel. I was teaching in the koilel. We learned Yevomim.
And you had to raise money for this?
I have to raise money, serious money for that. And for 2 years we made I can't say incredible work, but serious.
Made an impact.
The fact that you have Avachim that's living in Nes Ziona,
yeah,
it's rare. It was even strange. But we have like a very, very, very special Bes Medrash, very happy Bes Medrash in the old streets of Nes Ziona when Nes Ziona was a founding start. In Rehov Tel Aviv, Rehov and Reuven Ler, really the heart of Nes Ziona. As every Mossad, in the beginning you had incredible siyata d'ishmaya. You asked me about money. I don't know how I had money.
It just came.
It was a big expenses.
Yeah. Well, you had to pay these scholars every month
to pay the rent. I'm asking them to move and live.
Right.
Because then I realized that everything is about community.
Right.
I learned that in Los Angeles. I learned that in other places that I was visiting. That if you want to actually create something that is permanent, that is kavua, that it's influence, so you have to be settled inside the city and actually
you have to be a part of
the city.
So this kind of gave you the idea that you want to do this in other towns?
Not necessarily. I was looking for money and I came back to Shlomo Gottesman and I shared with him my difficulties. And his wife, Bella, suggested me go to my father.
And just to so people understand, her father was Zev Wolfson. Zev Wolfson was one of the great philanthropists of the last generation, giving hundreds of millions of dollars, really an unbelievable person. And to this day, his children continue his legacy and run major operations in philanthropic organizations around the world. So it's a good place to go.
It's a good place to go. I have to tell you that you're one of my biggest mentors and teachers and rabbis. They've also one for my personal work. He's not only a philanthropist, but he's a shtickle Avas Israel.
Right, he just loved all Jews.
He was care, and he was thinking about the money that he gave is one, but where his mind was and his heart has even nothing to do with the money. He was worried and cares and love and passion about Klal Yisrael. He was worried about the future of Klal Yisrael. And he decided actually to devote most of his time, I can tell, all his time for Klal Yisrael.
And so you went to him and he was excited about your concept?
He was not so excited. He didn't know exactly what I'm doing, but he says, a young guy, well, one center is not for me. I'd be happy to help you.
He thinks big.
Yeah, if you do it at least in 10 places.
So this kind of opened your eyes to doing something more.
So he says to Mrs. Wolfson, I appreciate your dreams. I came here to ask you for a certain amount of money. Now you want me to be involved with 5 or 10 times bigger commitments?
Yeah.
Says, that's me.
Take it or leave it.
So, and he told me, you're capable to do that. He gave me the strength.
Wow, he really pushed you to see beyond what you thought you could do.
Yeah, and I couldn't respond positive to his offer. It will take a few days, or a week or 2 weeks, and then we come to a compromise that I will do it in 5 places.
Okay. And he would help fund a lot of it?
50%.
50%. That's how we like to do things.
Yeah, matching.
Like to do matching grants and have, make sure that you have some skin in the game, as we say in America.
Exactly, and I will think about every penny that I spend. And he holds that in Kemach and Torah, it's everybody rules. I mean, so if you're a rabbi, you have to be part of the Kemach. You have to make sure.
You have to be part of the raising of the money.
In Amen Kemach and Torah is a rule that nobody can be privileged not to take.
Everyone has to suffer. Part of the suffering.
Every Jew.
Yeah.
Every Jew.
So where did you go with those 5 places? What did you have like your sight set on some specific communities?
Yes. So I was looking like in Estiona. My way is we're going to a place that nobody went before.
Right.
And
Star Trek, where no man has gone before.
So Modi'in, when we're sitting here, was just established. So we opened a community here. We heard, what's the policy of Modi'in. It was not necessarily Makom Torah. It's built for secular Jews.
It was built as a secular city, right?
Secular city, secular attitude. We opened a community in Tivon. That when I grew in Haifa known like the Red City.
Yeah.
Because the buses and the public cars running on Shabbat.
Right.
And we as a Haifa resident called Tivon that it's a city, or like a suburb next to Haifa, like the red Tivon. Haifa is
even more
Haifa
secular.
Haifa is whiter compared to Tivon.
Right.
It's a very intellectual place, and I decided to open there as well. They just start to build West Rishon LeZion, that it's city by itself. So we went there. We opened a community in Yafo. We are the only Koil and Ben in Yafo.
So beautiful there.
Yeah. So it's become like a very popular place. Yeah. Like Ayelet Hashchar today, every new moshav and every old moshav adapt the name of Ayelet Hashchar. Now you get confused. What is Ayelet Hashchar?
What is it?
Kirat Sefer is talking about change the name to...
Right, to change the whole name. That's because of Rav Steinman.
Somebody calls me. Yeah, that's another story, my relationship with Rav Steinman. But somebody called me this morning, says, in Ra'anan, did you see they just opened a new coin in Ra'anan called Ayelet Hashchar? So it's interesting.
It's a good name.
We all know that there is in the word Ayelet Hashchar and only Ayelet Hashchar.
That's it. It's one and only.
Yeah, that's only. Slowly.
So was the model that you brought a group of scholars to each city, or because I think at this point, from what I understand, the model is more putting in even just one rabbi in a city and trying to build a synagogue and trying to create a sense of community around a synagogue and around one really passionate individual or family?
So it's both.
Okay.
And I want to explain you, as having like those Torah centers, spreading in Israel, we had like in a short time also 20 20 years ago in Sderot, and we have a program in Ramle. So I happen to know more and more and be aware what's going in Israel. And I realized one day that there are hundreds of communities in Israel, settlements, kibbutzim, moshavim, yishuvim, mitzpim, what we call, that had no experience with, even with Jewish calendar,
Right.
as we understand that. No Yom Kippur davening.
There's no infrastructure there for Jewish life.
Nothing.
Right.
Most of the houses with no mezuzah.
Mm-hmm.
Even the vast majority of with no mezuzah, or maybe a few. Milah is not so clear, but Milah is not so clear.
Mm-hmm.
And my first is the biggest holiday, the social, the communist.
Right. So is it really like socialist vestiges of the previous era, really?
So I decided, what's disturbing mostly, that no bar mitzvah is now. And they never have opportunity to sneak to the beauty of our tradition.
Yeah.
They ignore it, they're afraid from it.
Right.
So after Zev Wilson, was willing to help me, I thought, I have like a horizon now. Maybe I can grow.
Bigger vision.
And I start to send minyanim almost every Shabbos.
To these different towns within the minyan.
Different kibbutzim, different towns.
And how do people react in these towns?
So for a while it was very, very good.
Good.
Very good. Beside the cost, that it cost me a fortune every Shabbos to move 10, 15 people. And, and make sure that they have the right, the right commendation.
And the food
right
and the programs and everything, yeah.
And we're Shabbosim that I made 20 settlements.
20 in one time. Wow.
One Shabbos. And
that's a lot of logistics
and money.
Yeah.
And as usual, HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you a big siyata d'ishmaya in the beginning, and then he's telling you,
time to get to work.
In the beginning, I had to think for a second before I decided. I don't know how all this comes. And the siyata d'ishmaya of the beginning. And until it becomes like a real project. And it's going to grow, and I end up with worried about how I continue to grow and support. I remember one day, I was sitting in a convention in Ramada. I don't remember which convention it was, but I came to raise some money. And Rav Shlomo Katzin for Bet Mizrah Sfaradi sat next to me. In the lobby, we started to talk. And he heard what I'm doing. He says, beautiful, but you're completely wrong, he says to me. He says, in what way? He says, instead to send a minyan every Shabbos, send a guy to live there.
Send one family.
Yes.
And let them build a minyan from within the town. Yeah. Cheaper?
I couldn't answer. I was completely shocked. I tried to understand what he's talking about because I knew the places. And he said to me, do you believe that any Toradic family will go to a place with no minyan, with no kosher store, with no eruv, with no minyan on holidays, with not welcome atmosphere?
Yeah.
So he says, definitely. He says, I train Rabbonim and send them all over the world, to Uzbekistan, to Kyrgyzstan, to Tajikistan, to Argentina, 800 away from Buenos Aires. So you will find some good family that will go 70 kilometers away from Bnai Brak, 100 kilometers away from Bnai Brak, 2 hours driving from Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
If I'm doing that, you can do it here too. Says, Rav Katzin, do you have any idea who should I start with? He says, yes. I have a rabbi in my yeshiva that his son got married, a very capable son. I will talk with him. We'll come back to you. After a day or two, he calls me back and says, listen, he's ready. And his father ready as well. Where he lives in Bnai Brak. Elena Koil already, but he's willing to take upon himself. A week after, I'm helping him packing, going with him with a truck to the first our yishuv called Sarona, up in the Galilee, in between Kfar Tavor and Yavneel. During this time, we placed already 167 families in 167 communities.
Wow. And how does it work? Do you support the family? Do they get a stipend? Do they get a salary? Or they just get money for programming in the community? How does it work?
They get money for their rent, they get in addition a salary, and they get money for their program.
Okay, so this is their job. It becomes their full-time job to work in the community.
Job, but we insist that those family will learn in a kollel, or at least will teach.
Will teach in the community.
Teach in the community or in the local schools.
But it can't be that you're supporting 167 full-time rabbis in these communities, right? It must be that are the local communities eventually stepping into support as well?
There were times that we supported...
that's millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah. It was time that we're supporting 86 or 87 communities in one time. Slowly, the community, or they hire, or they offer a job, or they got appointed by the Rabbanut to be a rabbi.
Okay, the Rabbanut will...
Or the community decided they're looking for somebody else or better than him, and they hire.
They kick the guy out.
But I can tell you that right now we're supporting close to 42 centers. But from 167, I think 165 places, we made a big move.
Big impact.
A big impact, a big move.
And basically the family just moves in and invites people for Shabbat meals and teaches classes and tries to start a minyan.
And the first 3 months it just introduce themselves to the community. They're basically walking afternoon at night on the street and introduce themselves and invite people for
And Shabbat. Are people suspicious? People say, you come here to convert us, to brainwash us, what's the reception typically?
Usually it's like that, and there are some people that doesn't care, most of them doesn't care, and there are some people that really interested. In the beginning it was much harder. Today we had like a request every day from different communities.
Because today it's already known.
And trust. We do it in the right way.
What's the right way? How do you define your program in order to do something in a way that's going to be receivable and comfortable for the community?
I will give an example that the second family went to a place that's called kibbutz Bet Keshet. A very secular kibbutz that I assume that most of the Israeli never heard the name and certainly doesn't know where it's located.
Right.
And very secular, with no shul. The first day that I visit them, my way is to go and check before, what's going on.
You speak to some community leaders, or you speak to people?
I speak to the leaders. I speak to the members of the kibbutz, and I remember that the first conversation that I had was the middle of the day. I was looking, and I asked people if there's shul here. The first person that I met was a guy that worked in a workshop in one of the metal business in the kibbutz.
Right.
And I says, please, do you know if there's any shul in that area?
Right.
He looked and he steered me. He says, synagogue, Bet Knesset. He says, come over. He has like a small room. When I came close, I realized he's an Arabic that works as a worker there. He says to me, you see, this is small room. It's the only place that no one of these kibbutz allowed to step in. He says, what do you mean? He says, because the old mouses here having chazir. And for me as a Muslim, chazir cannot come.
Meaning everyone on the kibbutz was eating
non-kosher
pig and things like that, and
as a Muslim.
So that room was his safe room for him.
Exactly, for him. So there's nobody allowed. And you asked me about Bet Knesset.
Right. So he's showing you how far removed it was from.
When I came to buy something in the local market, it was like impossible to believe. I came with a friend, and the woman that works there in that, on the cashier, She says, I'm not interested to make a payment for Haredi.
She didn't want to sell you anything.
Right.
Wow.
Then I realize how necessary our work. This couple that moved in after 1 year, she became the member of the culture department of the kibbutz.
Wow.
And you ask me what my way is, because we live together, we're not interested in focusing just to teach them Yiddishkeit.
Right. You're not just coming there to from a superior position. You're coming as sending people that really will be a part of the community.
Exactly.
And will be taking and receiving, and it seems like, and really sharing in the community.
And that we explain more than anybody else, what does it mean? Gadol shimusha yoter milimuda.
Can you explain what that means?
It's meaning that when you're close to your rabbi, you learn more, or it's more important than what you learn at the shiur.
Right.
Being around and being together.
The personal example is more important than the book learning.
And exactly, and basically when we build the trust, and from an honest point, not from a mission.
Right, you're not trying to be manipulative.
Exactly.
But you're trying to really create true human bonds. And that's a beautiful thing.
If you don't care about your fellow Jew, there will be no influence. There will be no Torah.
What's some of the greatest challenges you face now as we start to wrap up? What are some of the difficulties currently, and where do you kind of want to go with this organization? What do you want to do to grow it?
I have to tell you that we were more and more aware about the curiosity and about the really thirst of people to hear and to know that we opened a program that's called Partners in Torah, Chavruta, in Hebrew, and we have 20,000 people learning every week together. Wow. I can say it's through the phone. I can say that every and each settlement today in Eretz Yisrael has a Torah, at least once a week. Even the most anti-secular places, there are few people quietly, even hidely, learning Torah with avrechim, with their wives, one-on-one, for 14 years. It's very rare that we offer a program and people reject it. It's very rare. Chavruta program is growing every year. We have a special program for high school teachers, secular high school teacher, and from high school teacher, to give them the format, the base, to join together for a program, thinking what they can do together for the benefit of the communities. We have 15, 20 meetings. We believe that this message will create a big difference, because schools, especially high schools today, are very, very sensitive and very nervous about any different spirit that's coming. And the principals and the staff try to avoid everything that's not familiar for them. By having programs together, we open them, and we see the big difference. It's all back to personal relationship, to trust, to run away from the stereotype. Everybody today in Israel understands that this is a big threat. It is a big threat. And basically, day by day on the news, it's just a separation in Israel between different groups. And if we'll not be careful, it can harm all of us. That there are many, many children that are growing on a hatred messages by the parents. This Jew is not for me, that Jew is not a real Jew. I see in various cases that when you have, for instance, Haredi in the playground, some of the parents take the children and disappear. And the opposite too.
Right. People don't want to interact with each other.
And they're afraid. That's not the one. They're afraid. The statistics show that many of the secular feel more comfortable with Arabs than with the Haredim. And this can be on the other way also. And without this bridging engagement, and I have to tell you that we Baruch Hashem, we're not the only players. We 1%, we 1% of 1% from what's going on in Israel.
And you feel like Israel, there's a lot happening now in terms of people trying to bring others together and creating more harmony in the country.
Yeah, it's not easy because today with social media, it's become more and more difficult because it's easy to throw dirt,
right,
and to take extreme cases and show it as that's a style of the places, of the society. We're very worried about that, but we try even more. We try even more to come and to engage. I can tell you that Ayelet Hashchar is very welcoming today by 90% of the kibbutzim in Eretz Yisrael. It's close to 300 kibbutzim, and we're very welcome in moshavim, because we know that whenever we will do together.
Beautiful.
We never try to push more than the actual community willing. I'll give you two examples. One example is we asked to build a shul. Separation mechitza in shul is the biggest issue. We built already 45 shuls in the 45 different kibbutzim. Now I'm busy with 4 communities, and there's another 15 online. We never insist to have a mechitza in the shul. We never. We have one rule, that the people that coming regularly to shuls, they will decide what the style of the shul.
The ones most invested.
There's no one shul without mechitza. People will come and says, yes, mechitza is our condition. Most of the doors will be closed completely.
Can't force your way through.
Can't force, and I try to explain and helps all our avrechim, all our workers to come through a point of respect, believe, appreciate, and love. Unless you join all those ideas together, you cannot. It's whatever you do, it's temporary. Therefore, we're not trying, we're not pushing to the tshuva movement. We give you the opportunity. We hand the cup. We suggest you to try. We suggest you to try. We never feed you. It has to be internal. It works. And sometimes it takes more time, but we believe.
It's a long-term investment.
It's a long-term investment. We always worried and busy to give the opportunity, but we're not convinced.
You're not salesmen, you're friends.
We're friends, we offer, we can explain. Say to all my colleagues, Kyiv today is not doing by mouth, by your tongue, it's doing by your ears. By your ability to listen and to understand, to accept and to be part of other Jews, that's the biggest curve that you can achieve.
Beautiful. What a wonderful way to close, and I think it's an incredible example, this organization, of what is possible when we open our hearts and our lives to others instead of closing off or building walls, and instead of saying, they're this and they're that, actually to come into a community, to live among people that are different, and to really spread your own sense of belief and love and respect, as you said, and watch that reciprocate and watch those bonds form in just a very natural and organic way for years and years over time until everyone really is elevated together. It's an incredible model and one that I find very inspiring.
I just want to add that during the year I realized how community is important to live together. In America, I never saw Baal Tshuva, out of community.
Right.
It's part of something.
Sure.
In Israel, they're all rejected. They're not part of anything. They're not part of the school. They're not part of the skoilel. They're not part of the wedding, shidduchim word. They're not part of even to get aliyah in the shul. They're not privileged to play with the children.
Right.
They're out, and they have to grow by themselves, and that's caused tremendous problem.
Right.
Now I start, a year ago, to call and offer retired American Rabbanim, American English, outside of Israel to join us and to come and live. They understand what does it mean community. They realize what does it mean to everybody have the right to be in the shul.
Right. So you're importing the talents.
They're importing the talents
from America, right?
And from the Israeli perspective, they're out of the stereotype.
Right.
The difference.
Right.
They're not part of the politics. And of course, they're coming with a lot of experience.
Right.
And that's something very, very special.
Invaluable. I told you my wife, when we read an article about this a couple of weeks ago, my wife said, okay, now we have our retirement plans. So
okay.
Save me a good community. Shlomo.
I have a resort of secular people in Israel that I can continue my business. I make sure that
there's plenty left.
A few settlements that will remain.
Yeah.
I like to invite you to join us for our famous program with Yom Kippur davening and holidays programs.
Amazing.
Yom Kippur, when we go to the kibbutzim on Yom Kippur, they're shocked. You coming to us on your holidays, the holiday of the year, instead to be in Yerushalayim or Bnai Brak, you come to be with us.
Incredible.
This is a message.
Right, actions speak louder than words, we say.
Yeah, I have no Yom Kippur unless I'm here. And I always suggest people to come and experience that, because even beside what the benefit of this action, but if you want to really daven Yom Kippur, you should come with us. You will see a Jew that doesn't know what does it mean, Tfilat Anashim Melumada. They never saw davening. So whenever they do, how they stand,
everything is fresh and
everything is real. Everything is coming from the deepest point that possible. You
awesome.
See people that the first time in shul, but they couldn't stop crying, and everything is so exciting for them. And you see that you in a real environment, in a Yom Kippur environment, we try some of the places that we can offer that. We eat with them, Sudam Sekes, and we eat with them after in their lunchrooms, in the kibbutz lunchroom, or how you call it, like the place that everybody gathered for meals, and we part of Yom Kippur, the preparation of Yom Kippur, and the celebration after Yom Kippur.
Beautiful.
And most of the people that I know that experience this davening once cannot go back to regular davening.
It's addicting. Rabbi, tell us where we can learn more about the organization online.
So you can go to ayeletashachar.org. You can go to Chavruta, Facebook. You can go to YouTube and says Irgun Ayelet Hashchar. You will see hundreds of short movies. And I all welcoming you when you come to Eretz Yisrael. Please, my Israeli phone number is 972-52-6176-222. We have 200 employees in our organization, and we would like to share it with everybody. There are many communities that came and experienced, and I believe that was a very, very special time for them.
Amazing.
If you like to understand Israel, you can try.
Okay, Rabbi Shlomo Ra'anan, Ayelet Hashchar, an incredible, inspirational organization, and man, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And now, as promised, from Bnai Brak, the dynamic, indefatigable mother of 8 and connector of thousands, our conversation with Riki Siton. We are here in the very wonderful and beautiful and very religious city of Bnai Brak, suburb of Tel Aviv, on the border of Ramat Gan, with Riki Siton, the director of women's programming and the director of the Chavruta study partner program for Ayelet Hashchar. We've already interviewed Rabbi Shlomo Ra'anan, its founder, and he insisted that we must speak with his right-hand woman, really the powering force behind so many of its activities, in particular its women's division, Riki Siton. How are you, Riki?
Baruch Hashem. Thank you. How are you?
Thank you very much, doing great. Thank you for joining us. I know that you're a little bit nervous with the English translation, and that's fine. We are, after all, in Israel, and you're Israeli, so it's acceptable. If I was doing a podcast in Hebrew, I would probably be nervous as well. So thank you for stretching to do this. So Riki, tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up.
Okay. I born in Tel Aviv, in a very poor neighborhood in Tel Aviv.
In the south?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my family חזרו בתשובה.
Became more religious.
Yeah. And when I a very young girl.
Do you remember it, or it was already you were very?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel and grow up like a Haredi girl. And all my life I ask myself, what different in me? All the people around me was very different. We were religious, and the people very different way. And
in Tel Aviv, especially,
yeah,
it's a very secular city in general.
Very secular city, yeah, and very secular people. And I ask myself, why? This is like a mirror, and this mirror caused me to think a lot. What is mean to be Jewish? What is mean to be religious? What is mean to be Orthodox? What is? And I found myself like ambassador of Elohim.
Of God.
Yeah, of the Torah, of the, I don't know, nobody put me in this job, but life, but always when happens something with Haredi or with the people ask, what happened, why you do it? And I do nothing, yeah, but they so Haredi, so they come and ask what happened, and they need to answer. And sometimes I don't know what to answer, but.
So you were, as a young girl, already really questioning a lot and trying to figure out like why you did the things that you did and why other people maybe didn't do those things. Was that approach accepted in the community where you were? Did people in your school or in your family encourage you to ask questions, or they didn't want you asking so many questions?
No, because I was very good girl. I don't ask in the school. I ask myself and my friend and my family, and I go to the lectures. The audience was secular, and I sit in the pina.
In the corner?
In the corner and listen.
Interesting. So you were going to classes that were geared towards people from all backgrounds, so that you yourself could learn.
Yeah, I did it in quiet.
Right.
Nobody knows that I go and listen, and I go to the book and to our book, Torah and Mefarshim and
commentaries, yeah.
Read, yeah. And I have a very good friend that did it with me, and it's. I wish my children that they will have a very good friend like me. It's very good.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you grew up obviously around a lot of different kinds of people. As you got older, did you know that you wanted to do something to teach or to help other people or to be, like you said, an ambassador for Judaism? Was that something that you knew you wanted to do?
I don't think that I know that this is will be the job of my life, but I very love people. And the different between the people teach me that I love people, and it's not matter if the people religious or secular or young or old. I love people. So Baruch Hashem, I found myself in this job with people, and I'm very happy. I always say that my car dances in the way to the job because I am lucky. Because I have very good luck to do what I love to do.
Yeah, like it's not a burden.
No, it's very good luck and siyata d'ishmaya.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that I work with people and different people.
How did you come to get involved specifically with this organization, with Ayelet Hashchar? How old were you? What were you doing at the time? Were you married already?
Whoa, this is really a story. story and history.
Story and history.
Yeah. Before 15 years ago, I began to work in Ayelet Hashchar. I was albeit,
Like a dorm counselor, like a dorm mother.
yeah, to the very special group in Yafo city. This is a very poor neighborhood, and the girls, young girls, friend to Arabic guys, and it's very dangerous because they go and make drugs and sometimes marry with Arabic guys, and it's very big problem. And I began to work with this. Yeah, I very love them. It's very hard work because it's once in my life that I met young girls with no motivation to live.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not matter what happened. They have no motivation, and I can't saw it. It's very, very hurt. And we work together, and we bring them a lot of courses, cosmetics, and computer challenge, and a lot of
Educational opportunities, yeah.
education and העצמה, and to lift them up.
So you found the organization and you started working a little bit.
Yeah, and after and במקביל, after and came to work in the office, and I was drawn on to the work with the people now in the office. And it's with kibbutzim and moshavim, like very small cities.
Small towns and villages,
Small
yeah.
town, yeah, villages, yeah. And they have no touch to Yadut and to nothing. And we did happening around the Chagim.
Right, and holiday parties and things like this.
Yeah, and it's very hard to go to the kibbutzim, but it's very big surprise to know that in the end, all of us brothers and loves. It's very sad what the media do because it really build a wall between us, really. And in the truth, we don't hate each other. So people enjoy us, and we begin with one place and more and more and more, and it's go. I think in one Sukkot holiday we did 40, 50 happenings.
Wow, and all these different places in 1 week.
Yeah,
Amazing.
We run in one place to other, and it's very meragesh, very
Emotional.
emotional. It's really emotional to meet eyes to eyes the people and to speak with them. And we can speak one each other, but without the media between us. Only we speak. We can see the eyes. We can hear. We can fight. We can say what sit on our heart, but we can say it, and after we can love.
Beautiful. So you became more and more involved, more drawn in. Eventually, you started to become higher in the organization. What did you start to do once you were becoming more involved?
Over the past 10 years, I have been the head of a program consisting of 10,000 Haredi and secular women, Chavrutas, study partners.
Wow. And they're studying on the phone?
Yeah, they study on the phone, they speak on the phone, and it creates very beautiful connect between very far peoples. I can tell you about my friend, my Chavruta. I met Ona 5 years ago. She worked in Yediot Acharonot newspaper.
And the newspaper?
Yeah, it's a very big newspaper. She is a left wing, and she is an atheist. And she from the kibbutz, and now she lives in Tel Aviv. It's very closer to Bnei Brak. Only 10 minutes between us, but she never come to Bnei Brak before this trip. And Yediot Acharonot takes them to the trip in Bnei Brak to see how the Haredi people look like, how they think, how they speak, like exactly. And in the beginning of the trip, when I met people, I say, okay, today I took off my horns and my tail, and now I like you.
Yeah. Did they laugh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's very good to break the ice. Yeah,
I say it in Hebrew, so it's funny, not like now. And all day we go from the step to step, and we met teachers in the Haredi school, and we met women in the Bet Yoldot. Not hospital, Bet Achlama. After
giving birth, women go to recover and recuperate. And
and the newspaper men sit and speak with them, and it's very interesting conversation. And we go to the IROX. It's a computer service, high-tech, of Haredi young women, Hasidat Gur.
Wow.
Yeah, that open this, they build this business with a secular woman, Hasidat Gur, very secular, very religious woman, build up this business, very nice business, that only Haredi women work in this business. Now, today, work in IROX, 150 women. So in the end of this day, I told the people about Chavruta project. I told about Haredi women and secular women that speak on the phone about what they want to speak. You can speak about Parashat Shavua. Right, you can speak about relationships between husband and wife, and you can speak about astrology. And you can speak about what you want, but your partner must be from the other side. If you're religious, your partner secular, and if you're secular, your partner is religious. And Orna, my Chavruta, said, I want to be your Chavruta. And I say, okay, because I'm very shy to say I'm very busy and I have no time. And I don't know to what I say, okay. After I know. Over the 5 years, we fight and we laugh. And we speak about all the things in the world because it's very different, it's very far, it's very crazy that we friend. Orna is a left wing, is atheist. She's right in the newspaper and very big design in the newspaper. And she thinks that the Haredi is very, like people from the other star. It's not really people, and she wants to join to Chavruta because she wants to know how intelligent women can believe. That's all. She come to anthropology experiment. So I am a Haredi woman, mother of 8. My husband is Avrech.
He studies Torah full time.
All the day and all the life, Bezrat Hashem. And we're living in Bnei Brak. So I feel that really a very big, very deep path between us. And still, we're very good friends now. My family know Orna, and her family know us. And it's not only our relationship, it's very big circles around this connect. Today in Chavruta we have 10,000 Haredi and secular women. But I have come to realize that even this great initiative is not enough. So we build up groups that do together work. We have groups in education, groups in academics, and groups in the community. In the education, we bring Haredi principle and secular principle to around one table. They sit and learn about ways of education from each other. And this population of the principal, it's very hard to work with them because the hardcore of
right, these are the leaders of each society.
Yeah, they're the leader. So it's very action meeting. It's not easy, but it's very important because they take it from the table and go with this out. And also we bring teachers from the Haredi and secular, and they meet, speak, and do together initiative in the school. In the academy, we take students, secular students and Haredi students, and they meet and speak about the very hot potato. They speak about hot button issues, and they fighting, and they shouting, and they laughing, and in the end of the story, they very love. Okay, and in the community, we have very nice meeting between Haredi and secular women. One of the groups is a theater community. Very nice because the people can be very free to say what they want to say, and with a different way, knowing only in the speak. But it's very nice. This is a very nice way to say what you want to say. And after we go out with a show, and the actors speak with the audience.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
And also, I think, Riki, you mentioned that a person doesn't have to only speak Hebrew to participate in this kind of a program. Is that correct?
Yeah. You can speak Hebrew, you can speak English, you can speak French, you can speak Spanish. What do you speak? But
you only give a partner that speaks the same language, right?
And maybe I teach you Hebrew.
Maybe it's easier if you speak different languages, then nobody fights.
It's a very interesting idea.
You like it? Okay. That one is free. The next one I charge.
This is the next.
And Riki, if people want to join to this program, people want to get either involved in finding a study partner in Israel in whatever language, or if they want to join one of these special groups, or if they have ideas for other programs that Ayelet Hashchar or you could run, how can they get involved or get in touch with you?
You can Google it and look about Chavruta, Ayelet Hashchar. You found it, and you want to call us?
Or your email, Riki.
Our email, chavruta.b2@gmail.com.
Beautiful.
Say it again.
Chavruta.b2@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned to me, Riki, that along your journey, you had a very special opportunity to go to the United States and study at an excellent institution, to do a leadership seminar in Harvard. Tell me a little bit about that.
Except for the fact that I am very weak in English, this is a big opportunity to learn and to take home very wise ideas and to know very nice people and very interesting people. And it's really changed my thinking and give me a big inspiration to do what I do, but better.
What do you want to still accomplish in the future? What is still missing in society? You're doing so much, but what more do you want to see the organization do? What more do you want to do?
We did a lot of work. We have a lot of people in our initiative, but it's not enough. Today, we feel that this time it's very hard, and we must do more. Because if you listen to the media, you can't listen. It's very all day. The media speak about very bad and very sad things that happen between us in Am Yisrael, Haredi, secular, Dati, and it's crazy. You know, in the Darom, in the south now, we don't know if war will break out. But in our nation, in Am Yisrael, I'm really afraid that a war will break out. So we must to continue and must to do more, and I want that every Jewish person should have a friend with someone who is different from them. Not that have to change, but at least that should recognize one another.
Well, Riki, it's really amazing to hear, after hearing so much from Rabbi Shlomo about everything that's going on at Ayelet HaShachar and the 167 communities where there are now families that are serving as role models and breaking down barriers and dispelling stereotypes, to hear from really his right-hand woman who is the driving force behind so many of these programs, who is establishing so many of these study partnerships, and who's dreaming to grow those partnerships and to continue to build, who's not satisfied with 10,000, but you want 100,000 and 1 million, and till all 8 million people in Israel, I guess, have connection one to the other. It's a beautiful dream, and hopefully it can become a reality so that the tensions that we experience can be diffused, and that the love can really blossom between us, and we can have a much more understanding society, a society where people can learn from and grow with one another. So Riki Siton, Ayelet Hashchar, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This has been Ari Koretsky on Jews You Should Know. Please visit us at JewsYouShouldKnow.com and subscribe at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume podcasts. Find us on social media at Jews You Should Know. If you'd like to become a supporter of this podcast, we would greatly appreciate that, and you can do so by visiting patreon.com. That's patreon.com/JewsYouShouldKnow. Finally, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review so that we can continue to grow and introduce many more people to Jews You Should Know.